Hello, Fit Fam, and welcome to the Fit Doc Podcast. You know by now that this is the podcast we talk about how to stay mentally fit and physically strong. We have guest experts covering topics that you care about as we go on and discuss current health and wellness trends and really talk about how and why you need to implement wellness into your daily routine. Today, we're going to talk about your gut health with colorectal surgeon Dr. Lynn O'Connor. This episode I really enjoyed because it was the first time we recorded in front of a live studio audience when we partnered with the Long Island Nets. The Long Island Nets is a great organization that not only brings basketball to our community, but also service to those who are in need. By partnering together, we want to bring more wellness education to Long Island. And as always, how to make sure that we stay happy and healthy as we go along in living our lives. Dr. O'Connor is very special because she takes care of not just your gastrointestinal tract, but your overall wellness. And we're going to hear from her in a little bit, but today we're going to talk about a hot topic. Today's hot topics is detox. Detoxes are all over social media, from the celebrities and influencers who are always sharing what they do to stay healthy. But do they really work? And the answer might surprise you. Detox teas and supplements, they don't really work. Because what they're doing is, yes, you're clearing out whatever is in your intestines, but it's not considered a way to clean out your system. The best way to clean out your system is by having a healthy diet of fruits and vegetables. And as always, drinking your water, because we are what we eat. And one of the ways is to just stay healthy and to eat healthy. As we continue on with our celebration of Heart Health Month, I think it's very important that we also talk about the GI tract today. So today I have Dr. Lynn O'Connor, and Dr. O'Connor is the owner and director of Colon and Rectal Surgery of New York, and she also serves as the section director for two different hospitals, I believe.
Correct.
Mercy Hospital and what's the other one?
St. Joseph Hospital in Bethpage, New York.
All right. So we're going to jump right in talking about our GI health and mostly talking about colorectal cancer and other things too. But before we start, I want to know a little bit more. I know I've known you more than 10 years, probably like 15 or so. We won't go any more than that because then people will be like, and how old are they? So what is a fun fact that even though I know you, I don't know about you?
There are tons of fun facts. But one that most people wouldn't know is I enjoy square dancing. I mean, I do all kinds of dancing, but it's kind of fun. I like the line dancing, the square dancing. So, I mean, you take me out. I'm on the floor all night.
So I have a question. Like, where are you going for square dancing?
Well, I don't. But, because clearly there's no place around to do it. But if we ever had it, I'd love to do it.
Oh.
I think it's fun.
So road trip.
Yeah,
Nashville.
We go. Well, how about that?
All right. So on a more serious note, jumping in.
Yes.
What is colorectal cancer?
Colorectal cancer, and a lot of people call it colorectal cancer, but it's really colon cancer and rectal cancer. They're all, so they kind of lump it together, but it's treated differently. Mm-hmm. It's diagnosed usually with a colonoscopy, but you have the colon cancer and you have the rectal cancer. And what really cancer is basically normal cells that are in the lining of the mucosa of the colon or the rectum that just keep growing. They've lost their genetic check to stop growing. So they keep growing and it becomes what we call a cancer. And that because it requires, it takes up more of the blood supply, and then when the cells grow so big, they break off, and then that's when they metastasize. So you want to get to this before it even becomes a cancer.
So now, what age should we start to screen for colon and rectal cancer? And are you seeing more of an increase at younger ages? Because, a couple of years back, we talked about Chadwick Boseman, and then there's been a couple of other actors or famous people that have been diagnosed and have since passed. So, what is a good age to start? And then also, what do we need to look for to know that, okay, you know what? I shouldn't wait on this. I need to go to the doctor now.
Absolutely. Those are all great questions. So we are seeing a younger and younger population of people who are getting colorectal cancer. And that's one of the main reasons why we've decreased the screening age from 50 to 45. So 45 is now the natural screening age for people for colorectal cancer. So you need to start at age 45. If you have a family history of colon cancer, then you need to start to screen 10 years prior to the index case. So what I mean by that is family history is your first degree relatives, mom, dad, brother, sister. Those are considered the first degree relatives. It is still important to know the family history beyond that because families are a lot more smaller now. So grandma, grandpa, uncles, cousins, aunts, it's very important to know that. But the most important thing is your first degree family member. So if you had a first degree family member who had mother, say, colon cancer at 40, then screening should start at age 30.
Okay.
So that's when you should start screening 10 years prior to the index case. And screening at 45 is for average risk. The majority of colon cancers are found in patients who are average risk. So that's why it's really important. Now, some of the signs and symptoms that you should look for are change in bowel habits. So in terms of if you're not moving your bowels every day, if the bowels were once regular shaped and now they're small, pencil thin, or skinny, that's considered a change in bowel habit. If you start to see red blood, any kind of bleeding in the bowels, a lot of people chalk it up to it's just hemorrhoids. It's not necessarily just hemorrhoids. Rectal bleeding is not normal. So if you see that, you need to get checked out. If there's any kind of weight loss, if you have change in your appetite, what we call early satiety, you're not eating as much, and those are some of the things that you need to look for. Abdominal pain. The only problem is when you start to see those types of signs and symptoms, it's usually more advanced. So you want to get a screening colonoscopy, and that's why we call it screening, so you can get it before it becomes a cancer.
So, are you finding that out of certain types of, I don't like to say diets, but people who eat certain foods or maybe even culturally, that there's an increase in colon cancer?
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why we're actually seeing a lot of increase in colon cancer in younger patients because right now people are less active. We talked about exercise earlier, and we'll talk about that as well. But we have more of a sedentary lifestyle. We can Uber eat our way throughout the entire day. You can do everything you need to do with the palm of your hand. You don't walk, we don't exercise, we don't get outside. So those are some of the risk factors, and that's high fat diets, fried fatty foods, because we are really a very on the go type of society. We don't have time to sit and cook our meals. We don't sit down as a family. You've got someone going to soccer practice, someone going to football practice, you stop by McDonald's, you go to the drive-through, and that becomes our life. And we're used to having things at the ready. So it takes time to meal plan. It takes time to cook. And the other problem is sometimes, having inability to access certain foods. If you're living in a food desert, if you're not having enough fruits and vegetables. So those are some of the things that really play a role in diet, exercise, and heart and colon health as well as heart health.
So when you see someone and you know that they've been eating a lot of processed foods, what do you encourage them to do so that way they can have a healthy colon and not be at risk for colon or rectal cancer?
So one of the things I tell them, the simplest thing is eat the rainbow. If you eat the rainbow, you'll know that you have a variety of fruits, vegetables, vitamins, and minerals that are coming from your orange foods, such as your carrots, your yams, your purple foods, such as the grapes, such as beets, your greens, your kales, your spinach, your broccoli, your white foods, your cauliflower. So if you eat your tomatoes, your red food. So if you're eating the rainbow, you want to stay away from fried fatty foods. Red meats are really not our friend. Processed foods such as the deli meats, those are not good. They're also nitrosamines, which could be carcinogenic. So you want to stay from that. Whole foods. If you can get the food from as close to the ground to your table, which is your salads, your raw fruits, your raw vegetables, and even if you're cooking them, and sometimes during the seasons we're not able to get fresh foods, canned fruits, canned vegetables, canned fruits, frozen vegetables, that's still very good. fish, chicken, sort of like that Mediterranean diet. That is a heart-healthy diet, and it's also a colon-healthy diet.
Well, not to be funny, but I mean, I see that I have patients that are having like sauteed vegetables. And instead of using maybe olive oil or some other type of oil, you laughing. It's butter. Butter is what they're using. And then they're wondering like, why is their cholesterol going up when we're having the conversation? But I always have to like sort of dial down. Okay, so what are you using when you cook your vegetables? Because they're gonna have all
Yes.
the vegetables in the world, but sometimes that butter or that margarine is going to drive your cholesterol up, and that right there also puts you at an increased risk of cancer.
You can take a healthy meal and ruin it in 5 minutes. It is absolutely amazing. I'm not going to mention which chains are out there, but if you look, you can go for a salad, a simple salad. But then when you start putting on the cheese and the candied cranberries and the sugared almonds, and then you have all of that cream drizzled on there and all that cheese. I mean, it's like 1,600, 2,000 calories. And then you have romaine lettuce, which absolutely has no nutritional value whatsoever. So I tell my patients, again, if you're going to have a salad, have something that has some meat in it, like some bite to it, such as kale, such as spinach, such as arugula. Sprinkle in some of the romaine. You want to have your salad dressing there, low-fat salad dressings. There's the balsamic vinaigrette, those kinds of things. And those soups, when you think about soups, all the creamy soups, high fat, high calories. But you also have to be careful about the broth because there's a lot of sodium in that too as well. So you just have to really be careful. And I tell my patients, when you're going shopping, pick up the item and flip it around. There's a label there. There's a nutritional label there. It'll tell you how much fat is in there. It'll tell you how much sugar is there. It'll tell you how much vitamins and minerals and the daily value that you're getting. It'll also tell you how much fiber is in there, because we should get anywhere from 20 to 35 grams of fiber a day, and we are nowhere near that as a country, getting our enough fiber.
That's true. I mean, I know I start my day off with fiber because I love oatmeal.
Yes, that's wonderful. And you know what? You can jazz your oatmeal up. I put chia seeds in my oatmeal. I put flax seeds in my oatmeal. I put raisins. I put almonds, sunflower seeds, and I put some walnuts. So, I mean, you got a lot right there. There's so many things that you can do. I make smoothies. I used to put spinach in it for my daughter. She never knew there was spinach in there. You could put spinach in
Now
anything.
she knows.
I know. You can put spinach in anything, and they will know. You can put spinach in when you're sautéing your shrimp or your ground turkey instead of ground beef. There's so many different substitutes that you can do out there. And that's one of the reasons why we have younger and younger patients, I think, getting colon cancer, because they're eating worse than we ate when we were kids.
That's true.
And there's the amount of processed foods out there, the amount of fried foods out there, the lack of exercise, the rate of obesity. It's incredible, and it's starting younger and younger and younger.
That's true. I think my youngest patient that has prediabetes, I want to say was like 11 years old.
That's horrendous.
And with that, there's an increased risk of progressing to diabetes.
Yes.
And that starts right there in the home as far as what food they are eating.
Exactly.
Now, since we're talking about food also, the last time we spoke, you had talked about hormones in the gut and with their relationship. And somebody said, can you go just a little deeper about the hormones and how that role it plays with your gastrointestinal tract?
Well, a lot of the things, what happens is it's really the gut microbiome, and your gut microbiome is made up of thousands and thousands of microbes in there, and you want to start to eat foods that are healthy, that are going to be able to feed that gut microbiome. And that's one of the reasons why you want to be careful with some of the medications you use as well as the antibiotics, because that can eradicate the gut microbiome. And then when you talk about the gut microbiome, you want to talk about exercising. All those endorphins will help increase the good feeling that you have. And it's also important too when you talk about ghrelin and leptin. Those are the two hormones that have to deal with whether or not you're increasing your fat intake or your diet, or whether it's suppressing your diet as well too. And that's important too, because that all deals in with whether or not you're depressed, whether or not you're eating right, whether or not you're exercising. The entire body really is well orchestrated, and it is. And I know it's heart month, like we were talking about, but it really affects all of our organ systems. So that's important when we think about things like that.
Yes. So, Dr. O'Connor, we can go on and on and on talking, and we didn't touch about exercise today. but we will at another time. But I thank you so much for coming and spending a little bit with us before this Long Island Nets game. And I just want to say that we will post as to how people can get in contact with you. But I think it's very important that as a whole that we are really concerned about our health and that we follow through with everything that we're supposed to do. And I thank you so much for coming out today, everyone, to be a part of this wellness ceremony. And let's go, Long Island Nets, for a win. Now, now, does anyone have any questions?
That's a short question. You mentioned that romaine lettuce has no nutritional value, and I had no idea. And I'm wondering why.
Well, I mean, when you're looking at the iceberg and the romaine, the darker the leafier green, the better off it is. Because if you're looking at kale, you've got vitamin E, you've got vitamin C. So kale has more vitamin C than an orange. So when you start to get more of the darker leafier greens, that's more helpful. Now, I'd rather you have an iceberg salad than French fries. So, but if you're going to do on the degree of greens that you eat, the darker the leafier green, the better off it is. So but you could still have iceberg because iceberg has water content, and water content is important as well too, because when you're eating a high fiber diet, you need to make sure you have enough water as well, because if you don't have enough water with the fiber, you're going to constipate yourself.
Thank you.
It's not like it's terrible, but there are better alternatives.
We have a question in the back.
Hi, Dr. O'Connor.
Hi.
You spoke about eating the rainbow.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on juicing and cleansing in order to get toxins out, in order to just keep your body regulated and regular?
I love that question. And I'm going to answer it in two parts. The first one, I think juicing is perfectly fine. I would rather, though, that you eat your fiber than drink your fiber. You'll go far more with having an orange or an apple than orange juice or apple juice, because sometimes the way it's processed, you can have added sugar. But if you're going to take your actual whole vegetables and grind them up and juice them, that's perfectly fine. But just make sure you're not adding any sugar to make it palatable. You're not adding any processed liquids in there. And if you're going to have that, but I always say, if you can eat your fruit rather than drink your fruit, you're doing far better. Now, as far as when people say, I want to do a cleanse and I want to remove the toxins, my first question to them is, okay, what toxins? What is the toxin that you are removing? Because you'll hear that multiple times. We're removing toxins. What is the toxin? And when you cleanse, that's a problem, because the only time that your colon is clean is in the first few hours of a newborn baby. After that, it's populated with the natural gut microbiome and the microbes that you have. And the problem is, in the gut, you have good bacteria and you have bad bacteria, and they live symbiotically together. So if you start cleansing, you're going to disrupt that equilibrium and that balance, and that's when you have problems. And the other thing that people do with colon cleanses is sometimes they will infuse too much water, so they can overload you with water. They can puncture the colon. They can irritate the lining of the colon. There's just so many things. The best way to cleanse your colon is to eat right. If you eat right, you're exercise, you're reducing stress, you're getting enough sleep, that's how you're going to be good to your colon, and that's how you're going to be good to your body.
This segment is my probably favorite segment. It's called In Real Life, where you get to know a little bit about me that you might not know. Over the past couple of years, I was primarily a pescatarian, but now I'm what we call a flexitarian. So I might occasionally have some pork or have maybe a hamburger, especially if it's summertime. But I have not had chicken in probably about 10, 12 years. And that was because years ago, probably about 10 or 12 years ago, I I had to have surgery. And during the time of recovery for surgery, my family loves chicken. And I ended up having to make chicken. And I didn't like the fact that when you looked at chicken, sometimes it was pink, sometimes it was yellow, sometimes it was so muscular and plump, and sometimes it was so scrawny. And that just totally made me have an aversion for chicken. But anyone who's out there having wings, knock yourself out, because that was my favorite part of the chicken to have. But that helped to inspire me to sort of cut out the chicken in my own intake. But whatever you eat, I just encourage you, if you have chicken, make it grilled and not fried. Fit fam, hopefully you learned a little bit more about your gut health and understanding why it was so important to take care of your gastrointestinal tract. As Dr. O'Connor said, she's seeing younger people that are coming in with colorectal and gastrointestinal issues due to our food and our lifestyle choices that are being made. So let's try to stay healthy, eat fruits and vegetables, and avoid red meat whenever you can. Tune in next time for more wellness knowledge from our experts. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share the Fit Doc podcast with a friend.